They took what out of the Bible?
Goodwill towards men.
Did they really?
Yeah.
So that was the King James only?
The King James only deal, and it's not in the New King James, and they took it out.
Wow.
Yeah, every other version. I'm actually preaching that this week, Luke chapter 2, verse 14.
So how do you feel about people who are King James only specialists?
We're on the air. They think that everybody has peace, and they're wrong. Welcome to the Jesus Cartel.
Yeah. Where we don't hate people who read the King James.
No, we don't at all. They're just wrong.
Yeah. It's so here's a quick thing. I think we should talk about. I don't think we've ever discussed it.
Maybe not.
So I'll give the brief version. So a lot of people, they look at the King James Bible, which is the first of the English translations. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. When it was translated, they did not have available to them some earlier copies of the original manuscripts. And so when it comes to trying to find something's origin, what you want to get is as close to the original as possible. That's what you're looking for. And so when the King James is translated, they had some copies of manuscripts available, and they translated from those copies. Since the King James, they have discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls and many copies that were much closer dated to the original manuscript, which would mean that they would be viewed as more authentic. Yes. And so the newer translations that you see, a lot of times people will read ESV or something like that, and they'll see it skip verses, and they're like, oh my gosh, somebody has come and taken things out of the Bible. And that's a horrific thing. I can't believe somebody would do that. But what has actually happened is when they looked at the older translations, what they realized is that the things that were removed were not consistently found or found at all in the older translations that were dated back closer to the original. So it wasn't that they removed things from the Bible. That's not what happened. That's the narrative, but that's not what happened. What has actually happened is in the ones that are closer to the original date of the original manuscripts, they didn't possess those verses at all. So what it actually appears is that when the King James was translated, that they translated things that had been added after the fact. Yeah. And so that's not necessarily anybody's fault. There are people who have ideals that, King James possibly was responsible for things. Hey, and I'm not saying absolutely not. Government corruption is not a new thing. But the reality is it's not a thing about King James is old and then all this other stuff
is newfangled things.
It's actually quite the opposite. The King James is based off of newer manuscripts, and other translations are actually based off of older manuscripts. So you got your things flip-flop there. But we're not against people who like the King James. It's just we do run into, and this is something I encounter more than you do, traveling in the Baptist circle, we do run into people who are so hardcore towards the King James that if you preach or read anything other than the King James, they don't look at it or view it as scripture at all. Right. And they won't even allow you in their church. And I'm not being funny. I know it sounds crazy to some people listening, but they won't even allow you in your church. And there are a multitude of problems with that. I think the most prevalent of which is, if you want the original, learn Latin.
Amen.
Learn Greek. Learn Hebrew. Yeah. That's the original.
Right.
And so your English translation, even the King James,
always gonna have fault.
Is way, like, there's no way that, that it's the original. It's just not. And so so the argument there is that the Lord would have somehow mystically preserved it within the King James, and it's like, well, if he did that with the King James, why wouldn't he do it with the others? It's a whole thing. The point is, to read the word properly, you have to have the Spirit of God on the inside of you. If you have the Spirit of God on the inside of you, you don't have to freak out and worry about all of the in-betweens. He will be the revealer of truth. We lean not on our own understanding. We're going to lean into who he is. And but that is a very real thing.
Yeah, I agree. Two things there. The first thing is you have some hardcore King James people, and I've heard them say, well, if it was good enough for Paul, it's good enough for me. Like, when do you think it was written?
Yeah.
And so that's one issue. And then with this one, this is our pre-Christmas episode that we're having here. I'm actually preaching Luke chapter 2, verses 11 through 14, and that's where it says, glory to God in the highest. And it used, King James says, and on earth peace and goodwill towards men. And now all the translations, including the New King James, say, and peace to those that have the favor of God, or peace to those that have relationship with God, or whatever. Because we see that just because Jesus came, there isn't peace on earth.
Yeah.
Now, we have peace between us and God because we have a relationship with Him through Jesus Christ. But there is not peace. We have lots of wars going on right now on earth, And so I think that that was corrected there. Now, when we say it was corrected, we don't know that it wasn't just gone back to the original of what it was originally intended. I think that that's probably more accurate.
That would be my guess as well. But here's the deal. If this conversation has caused the hair on the back of your neck to stand up, I want to put you at ease with this piece of scripture that I believe you'll find in both translations, which is to not take part in senseless quarrels.
Amen.
And this is one of those things that we watch Christians war at each other with that is a senseless quarrel. This is not something that is God honoring for us to fight and bicker and hate each other over what translation of the Bible. That's why I don't have any issue with King James, guys. None whatsoever. I praise God that you're out there preaching the gospel.
Amen.
You preach it, brother. You get after it.
And the only reason this come up is Andrew was singing a song that had those called I Heard the Bells, that has that on there that says peace for all mankind or whatever, and then it says peace on earth, goodwill to men, and that is a song that's very popular. I don't know how accurate the song is, but anyhow,
great song.
It was just good discussion.
Yeah, that was just random. That was
just random discussion where Andrew
awesome.
pushed the play button or record button.
I had to. It seemed too good. So yeah, what's been going on other than that?
You know what? Where are we at? So we recapped the ball game last week, and that was good.
Yeah.
And we've been able to have a great week this week, and just kind of got out of routine a little bit on some things over the last couple of weeks, and was able to get back into a routine. And I'm a routine guy.
Yeah.
In fact, a couple times this week I got to speak to the second phase guys at job readiness, and I was teaching on time management. And you would have thought that they didn't make their beds. You would have thought they smoked some crack. All this kind of different things, because I am hammering on time management.
Yeah.
But I love it. And for me, part of the reason why I hammered on it so much is I'd been out of a routine that I feel great about, and I was getting back into that routine, and it makes me feel so much better. So being able to, the holidays and stuff are nice. Things are nice, be able to do parties and stuff, but I also get a lot more accomplished when I'm able to get back into my routine of things.
Yeah, it smokes routines. And, a lot of people talk about different things, the holidays being difficult and struggling. It's all evident in most cases, unfortunate, but evident. But I'll tell you one thing that's extremely difficult on the holidays, even though it's very well intentioned, is to eat well. It's very difficult to eat well on the holidays. There's constantly food available that I would say is lacking in the nutrient category
that isn't normally available that way.
Right. Yeah. And it's for like 2 months. It starts with the early celebrations of Thanksgiving, and it runs all the way through early January.
Yeah, Mardi Gras.
And then Mardi Gras is a little different though, just because it's typically like more dessert type food.
Right.
Where Thanksgiving, I mean, you're gonna have potato salads and corn casseroles and dressing and all that kind of stuff. And then most people for Christmas, which I think last year, one of these years, not too long, we talked about Christmas food and how my gripe with Christmas food basically being Thanksgiving food just done a second time, which I think is ridiculous. But but it's a lot of food available that's not super nutritious. It is delicious, but it's not nutritious. And so we see a lot of people who aren't health nuts who made really good headway this year. Just getting better and better in terms of how they're taking care of themselves, things like that, can really be derailed by what is not just a cheat meal, but is essentially 2 full months of not great eating, which is enough to establish a new routine. 60 days of doing something not great can establish a new mindset and a new routine for you if you're not careful. And so you got to be real intentional over the holidays to portion control and do things like that. Make some choices, make some sacrifices, and I say sacrifices like you're really giving anything. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what about this? Let's look at, so you look at it from the food standpoint, but what about also somebody that did really good during the year budgeting and saving money and doing better with their spending and not doing frivolous spending and stuff, and then they get to this time, and then all of a sudden in November, the Black Friday sales start way before Black Friday and different things, and the next thing you know, they've bought way too much. Or what about the person that's done really well spiritually, and they've done really good all year spiritually, and they've been reading their Bible and stuff, but because they're having to get up at different times or move their times around or whatever during this time, it makes it a little more difficult for them to stay on the course there. And so, I think that, food's an easy one, to look at, but I think we also need to look at finances. I think we also need to look at our spiritual sense, different things like that. All those things are better when we can get into a good routine.
Yeah.
And then when we get out of those routines, it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
Just like, this week I wasn't able to go work out one of the days, so I went 2 days back to back. Well, didn't get as much accomplished 2 days back to back as I would have if I would have had a day in between, doing those things. And so even though I went the same amount of time, I didn't get as much accomplished, Same way, I know when I'm doing like Bible reading plans and stuff, the times that I have the hardest time doing my Bible reading plan is when I'm overseas preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
So here I am overseas preaching the gospel, but my routine's different. And so I usually mess up on my Bible reading plan a day or two and have to go catch up,
Yeah.
So I think that just keeping it all at the forefront that, hey, something in moderation or this or that, is okay. But let's don't do so much of it that we mess up and make new routines or new habits that's not good for us.
Yeah, and one of the important things there is you got to make those decisions ahead of time. You can't wait until you're in the middle of the moment and then decide, you know what, I'm going to resist the temptation that's presented to me here. Those things have to be decided ahead of time. And, for the majority of us, when we say in a moment, like at a dessert table looking at desserts, we're going to have a real hard time saying, you know what, I think I'm just going to have one bite of one dessert. But if you went into it with that mindset ahead of time, it's a little different, especially when it comes to spending money on Christmas. And that's, conversations my wife and I have throughout the year that we had before we ever had kids on how we were going to spend at Christmas. And, we decided as a married couple, as a family, even though we didn't have kids yet, we decided we were not going to overspend at Christmas. It's not something we were going to do. We were going to, get a couple of things that the kids would enjoy, not expensive things, just a couple of things the kids would enjoy, and that was going to be that. And every year when Christmas comes around, I know my wife feels it. I feel it too, even though I don't talk about it. There is always a draw and a temptation to spend way more, not because of ignorance, but because of I love my kids. I want them to have fun stuff. I want them to have things they enjoy. And there's so much that's put in front of you at these times. The temptation to spend more is there, but we can always point back to that conversation, and we do, and say, hey, look, when we got married, we made a decision to do it this way. It was for a reason. It was for a good reason. Our circumstances have changed a little bit. We had a good reason when we made this decision. I think that we need to stick to it. And for that reason, we always do.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think it's important. It's a lot easier to say, because when you make a decision for what you're going to do before you have kids, that's easy.
Yeah, sure.
It's just hard to stick with it.
That's
so
right.
it's kind of like making a decision for somebody else's kids.
Yeah.
Because you don't have kids yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you have Arya and this is something she would really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be something that would be beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
and we can call it Christmas, but yet it's really going to be beneficial to her in the long run, then you have to have strong things set and strong parameters set to not do those things,
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that as specific as you can get with it, the better. So if you feel strong about we're not going to overspend at Christmas, then I think that you need to set a monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to set a monetary value and maybe even a cap of actual individual presents, because not spend too much is a little too relative for me. If in my mind we're going to do something, let's get specific with it, because a lot of people can't deal with relativity.
Yeah.
A lot of people need things very specific. And I know with y'all, it's more of the spirit of the law, the decision, not the letter. But at the same time, for a lot of our listeners and stuff, we got to get specific. If
Sure.
we're going to lose weight, we need to know how much weight we're going to lose.
Yeah.
If we're going to save money, how much money are we going to save? If we're going to read our Bible, how much are we going to read it? And if we're not going to spend too much for Christmas, what is that limit?
Yeah.
I'll
tell you one of the unique things that, and this won't necessarily apply to our listeners, maybe, I don't know, maybe it will. But one of the unique things that's really worked out well for our family in that area of learning to budget and sticking to budgets and things like that. So my wife doesn't work. That wasn't always the case. She doesn't now. So she raises and schools 4 children. She doesn't have to school all 4 of them. She's really mostly schooling the older 2. One of them's 3, so she is loosely involved in the schooling and the youngest one. But my point is, my wife works very hard, but she does not bring in income. There's $0 that she brings in, and she's aware of that. And so if we overspend, and now it's not that she doesn't view the money as both of ours. She does. She absolutely sees all the money as our money, and she's correct. I feel the same way. But she also knows that if we overspend it, I am the only one.
Work harder.
I'm the only one who can make it back.
Yeah.
There's nothing that she can do to fill that gap in. And so the question now becomes, do I value that which I'm purchasing more than I value you being home?
My time with my husband.
Because that's the
Direct
trade.
correlation.
That's the trade. And so, because she can't go do it. And so now that's still true if both parties are working. If she did have to go, she would still be away from me. But for whatever reason, when both parties are employed, that kind of gets lost in the translation. It's like, I make this money, you make this money. But for us, there is that direct correlation between my being at home and my being gone that's very clear. It's very easy to see. That's not as easy to see in a lot of families. And so that's been a major player for us, that the picture's right there in front of us. And it's like, I can make more money, and if this is something you really want to do, we can do it. But just understand, I'm going to have to be gone for a bit to do this.
Yeah, one of 2 things had to happen. Either you had to be gone more now, or either y'all had to dip into your future. Because y'all do set aside money for your future and stuff. So it's one of those 2 things.
Correct.
Either I had to be gone more now, or our future won't be quite as good because of this. So we have to look at this item and see if it outweighs those things.
Or our future may not come as fast. Where you might can retire at 55, now I'm retiring at 65 because we did this every year, And so everything's got a cost. And consider it, think about it, make some decisions ahead of time when you're sober-minded. And obviously when I say sober-minded, I'm not talking about being intoxicated. What I'm really saying is, in the moment, there's something about that we kind of get intoxicated by moments. You know what I'm saying? But before the moment gets here, you can be very sober-minded about it. And that's the best time to make
So
those
whether
decisions.
it's food or whether it's money or your spiritual time or your time, look at all those things ahead of time. Make good decisions there. Something you'll hear Andrew and I say a lot that a lot of people don't agree with is you don't have to make every Christmas event that you're invited to.
That's right.
You don't have to make every party, every one of those things. If it's going to sacrifice the quality time that you have with your family, then we would look at it strongly of not going to those things and stuff. So every time somebody invites you to an event doesn't mean that you have to go. During this time, a lot of people attend a lot of things that they really would rather not. Well, you need to count the cost on those things, what it is the cost,
That's absolutely right. I completely agree.
Amen.
For us lately, we've been dealing with illnesses for a couple of weeks now. Made it through that. Glad to be feeling pretty much normal again. Hopefully we hang tight through the holidays. We do a lot of travel. We'll do a lot of travel over the next week, and so we already missed one trip. We had a big trip planned for the kids and didn't end up being able to go, and that's just part of the game sometimes. And a lot of people would be really disappointed, and obviously we want our kids to be able to have some experiences like that, but at the same time, it's like we get a lot of great things. We get a lot of great experiences. Are we really going to throw our sucker in the mud because we missed this one? And so I think it's important to appreciate all that we do get to do and all that we do have. And we got a great life, and it's going to be okay that we missed out on
I like it when you use that phrase, throw our sucker in the mud. And if people hadn't ever thought about that, he's saying that, hey, I have something great. I have something sweet. I have something that I really enjoy. But because I'm upset because this didn't go my way, then I'm going to get rid of my something sweet, my joy, my something good, so that I can be mad.
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
it's wild.
But we see people do it all the time.
Yeah. And take that just a hair further. After you throw it in the mud, you can pick it back up, but it tastes different. Right. It's a weird thing. But other than that, things have been really good. And so I got to get to know you segment question, and I want to know what is on Clay Russell's Christmas wish list. By the time we film the next episode, Christmas should have passed, and so I'm curious if there's anything on your mind, anything you've been eyeing.
So we're talking about like material things
Yes.
that we would like to have for Christmas.
Yes.
Which I receive a lot of those things.
That's correct. Yep.
That's right. And so, yeah. So here's what's funny. And I said this, a lady, a good friend of ours, told me this at Super One yesterday that I said this on the podcast, but I'll take it a step further. So before we started Pool House Church in the first Sunday of March, I had never preached 2 Sundays in a row at the same place. And apparently I said that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago because the lady brought that to my attention. Okay. Now, but used to, when I would go preach, Miss Becky would buy me a new shirt. Or a new shirt and pair of pants or a pair of shoes or something.
So what you're
I
telling
would get
me
something new.
is you have a huge new wardrobe because you've been preaching so much.
Right, and so I don't, but I could. And so, and so most of what I've asked for is stuff to wear on Sundays, because at Fresh Start, I can just wear whatever. And, to some degree, the same at Thrive Church. We're not, one of those churches that you have to wear your best or anything like that. But I do enjoy dressing up from time to time, especially when I don't have to,
Sure.
when it's my choice that I get to dress up when I want to. I usually go that way. I enjoy doing that. And especially in the wintertime when you can wear some long sleeves, you got to remember for all of my Christian life, I have been a musician on Sunday mornings. Mm-hmm. So all of my Christian life, I normally had to watch what I wore because of playing music. Because when you're on stage that whole time for practice and stuff, the lights are really a lot. And so very rarely would you see me wear long sleeves. I would mostly wear short sleeves, even in the wintertime. Maybe wear a jacket off stage and then take it off and everything. And so I'm a guy that enjoys wearing a long sleeve button down the front shirt into some dress pants and stuff like that. But if I'm playing drums on stage or I'm playing bass on stage and I'm on stage for an hour and a half between practice and worship, then that makes it really difficult. So I enjoy getting dressed up. So right now, it's not too hot in the building. It's a little cool, and so I'm able to wear some long sleeve button down the front shirts, stuff like that. So my Christmas wish list is things that I can wear to church because I'm actually on stage every Sunday now.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
What about
Yeah,
you,
man,
Andrew? Do you have a Christmas wish list? You want somebody else to give you another $300 sweater or vest or something like that?
So this sweater was $11.
I did get a really nice heated vest from one of our friends who I was making fun of on the podcast for his vest, and he got me one, and
you wear it
all the time. It was phenomenal. Yeah, no, obviously, if you haven't figured this out about me by now, I hate when people spend money on me. It bothers me to no end. You work hard for your money, spend it on yourself. That's kind of how I feel about that.
So what are you buying yourself for Christmas?
If I don't, well, that's the reality. Is if I don't have it, I can't afford it. If I don't have it and I want it, it's because I can't afford it. If I can't afford it, neither can you. And
what did you get at the Fresh Start Christmas party as your exchange gift?
I got a bag of coffee and a flashlight.
Okay.
That I brought to.
Oh, so you got what you brought?
I do it every year.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I do it every year, and I gave the flashlight to my kids
Okay.
because it was a lantern flashlight that I knew they'd really like. They play forts in the house, and so it's like the whole flashlight was see-through, and when you hit the button a second time, it turns into this really bright lantern. I was like, they would love this for their forts, and so I got that. And then my wife really enjoys coffee, but we don't spend money on coffee, and so normally we just get the I don't even know what the Walmart brand of like dark roast coffee is, but that's normally what we keep at the house. And so I just got a really like a $20 bag of coffee, really nice bag of coffee, and I knew she'd enjoy that.
Did you wrap it up, or did you just give it to her?
I put it in an AT&T bag because I had to buy her a new phone because her phone just died in her. It was the weirdest thing. I've never seen a screen go out on a phone, but it
So
sure
you're
does.
saying that for Christmas you got Courtney a brand new AT&T phone and a very expensive bag of coffee.
Sure. Yeah, things that I would have bought in March. If she asked. My wife is very low maintenance in a good way. She's not demanding of things. I try to do for her, when I can, and she's always extremely appreciative of whatever that looks like, and so it a lot, and that's one of the things that's unusual because my wife has never once complained ever, and this has been, we've been together for, it'll be 11 years in January. We've been married, and she's never once complained about anything like that. But other people complain for her, and it's just like, well, you have no idea the state of our marriage or how things are, and if you really knew what I did for my wife, you'd not be complaining about this. And I'm all for like people that go big on the holidays. I have no issues there. If it works for you, great. Now, if the only time that you ever do anything for your family is if there's a holiday, I don't like that so much. If the only time you take your wife on a date is Valentine's Day, I don't like that. I just don't, And so, we talk about, well, what are you buying your wife for Christmas? I can tell you, I'll say it in front of God. I'm not buying my wife a Christmas present. We've never exchanged Christmas gifts, not one time. And she's not going to buy me anything. Now, we get each other little things all the time. I brought a gift home for her like a week ago. And when I brought her that gift into the house, she goes, I've actually got a gift for you. And she had something for me. And it's just like, it had nothing to do with Christmas. We got a new phone recently. We got a Tahoe not too long ago. Like there are things like that happen all the time, but people really put a lot of energy negatively towards their constructs of what they think that people should be, and it's like, you really ought to get to know people and spend some time with them before you make these snap judgments. And it's hard to watch. It's one of the reasons I hate social media, because it's just people spewing their opinions about everything that they have no idea anything about. And it's hard to see people walking those kind of things.
Yeah, what works for you doesn't necessarily work for somebody else because of experiences or life things or goals that you're
Sure.
trying to do. And I never have an issue with other people doing things different than me.
Sure.
The only issue I have is when they think that I have to do it the way they do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And
Yeah.
so, other people doing things the way they do, you'll never hear me make a rib about it. You never hear me make any comments, good or bad or ugly, about it, because it's their life. As
Yeah.
long if it works for them, I'm cool with it. And if it doesn't work for them, then hey, we'll talk about it.
Important side note, because this would be a question that people have, is whether or not I force my children into the same submission to those things. And I don't. I don't. There are some things, obviously, that are non-negotiables in our family. Whether or not you want to buy a Christmas gift for someone is not among them. And so the other day, my children were wrapping gifts of theirs, not Christmas, just things that they have to give to Courtney for Christmas. And so I will take the children shopping, and I will let them pick out some gifts for Courtney that we will give to Courtney, because that's what they want to do. Not because they were forced to, not because anybody told them they had to, and no one told them they couldn't.
Right.
That's just something that they decided they want to do, and I'm more than happy to empower them to do that. If giving is something that is the Lord is impressing on them, is important, and praise God, my kids don't have to grow up and see everything the way that I see it. There are some things they have to grow up and see the way that I see it. This is not one of them.
Right.
And it's okay. And so that's just
Yeah, I can imagine if Arlen never was able to give a present to somebody, that would be difficult for her, because she has that heart where she wants to
She's
to
the
give.
main culprit.
Oh yeah, I can tell already. I mean, I already know. I already know.
Yeah.
That she would be the one that would really want to, even if it's given from her, from her stuff. So.
Yep. And so, yeah, Christmas wish list, I'd love a Toyota 4Runner.
Okay.
Not going to get one anytime soon. Maybe a few years down the road when one of our current vehicles dies, I may get one. But don't need one that bad. And those are nice though. And I'd love, if someone gifted a Toyota 4Runner, so if there's some ominous billionaire listening somewhere that just has nothing better to do, sure, I'll take one. It'd be nice to have another vehicle with some interior cargo storage, so we wouldn't have to swap vehicles every time we need to take the kids somewhere. That'd be cool. Outside of that, good to go, brother. I'm feeling pretty good.
Does it have to be new?
No, it doesn't. I would prefer it to have a keyless start, like where I could start it from inside. That would be the only thing that I'd really like it to have. So if there
Get
was
to know you segment question. Have you ever purchased a new vehicle?
one time.
Okay.
When I first started, right before I got a promotion at Pecan Haven, which I didn't know I was getting a promotion. That just kind of happened. Because I was commuting so far every day, and it was killing me on gas. I thought that it would be a good idea to get a vehicle that had some better gas mileage and also would fit our children in it. And so I bought I think it was new. It was either new or it was a year old, but it was not. It was really nice. It was a GMC Acadia AT4. I think it was like a 21 maybe, and that was the nicest as far as just like with the Tahoe we have now. It's nicer. It's just got more miles on it when we bought it, but it was very, very. That was the first time I'd ever had a vehicle that I was like sat in and it was like, dude, this thing is jam up, But like I bought that Tacoma that I have now. I bought it not too terribly long ago, but it's like a 17 and had 70,000-80,000 miles on it or something like that. And it's got nothing fancy in it. It's all, regular keys, but no keyless anything. It's which there's no problem with that. The only reason I really like the keyless thing, and the reason that's the only amenity I ask for, is because I like to run my vehicles before I get in them. Not for the heat, though that's nice too, but just to let the vehicle warm up before you jump in it and take off. It's better for the vehicle. And so if I could do that without having to throw shoes on every time I go outside, that would be neat.
Okay.
Yep.
Just ask him.
Yeah. Have you ever bought a new vehicle? Once or twice. Yep. So last week was a kind of a weird episode. We just kind of tailed off into all kinds of good stuff, but none of it was intended. The episode was supposed to be on what we're about to talk about right now,
Okay.
which is the power of the tongue. Best I understand it, you just preached a message on this.
Yes.
And I guess the question ultimately is, does what you say matter? Is that a fair synopsis for what you'd be trying to figure out?
Yes. Yeah, and I did just preach a message on that, and don't want to have to, rehash that for everybody, but really enjoyed preaching that message. When I went to write it, I didn't know exactly which way it would go. I knew that I needed to preach it. But I was able to dive into it and found some things that were very important, some things I already knew, but also some things that were very influential and be able to help people. One of the things is one of the most prominent verses about the power of the tongue in the Bible is found in Proverbs 18. And it says in verse 21 that spirit and life are in the power of the tongue. And we see that. And our life and death, I guess, is in the power of the tongue. And we see that. When you see a situation, you have the opportunity to either speak life or you have the opportunity to speak death, right? Into those situations. And you can choose how you see a certain situation. And many times, how you initially react in a situation lots of times determines the outcome.
Yeah.
So here's a difficult or potentially difficult situation, but a lot of times you have the power of how that turns out based on how you initially react during that. Okay. And we could talk about that, and that's a good topic for discussion. But when I was researching Proverbs 18, about that there's life and death in the power of the tongue, what I noticed real quickly is Proverbs 18 is actually on the subject of wisdom. So it's not necessarily on words. The chapter itself is on wisdom, but yet it's like every other verse talks about a man's words and how things come out based on for what he says.
That's good.
And so I was able to see a direct correlation between the words that we speak and the wisdom that we encompass. And if you look back on that, now being enlightened to that, you will see that. You will see that the people that you perceive as wise usually don't speak a lot of unneeded words. They don't usually talk a lot of trash. They don't usually blast people for no reason and stuff. Usually the people that you perceive as wise, a lot of what comes out of their speech is good, strong stuff, and doesn't have a lot of the other stuff in it. And so I think the Bible is showing us in Proverbs 18 that there is a direct correlation between being wise and having wisdom and the words that we speak.
That's good.
I think we can all see that as when we were younger. Lots of things come out of our mouths that wouldn't come out of our mouths now.
Yeah.
While we're getting more wise.
Sure.
A lot of things before we were Christians came out of our mouths that wouldn't come out of our mouths now. Why? Because there's a lot of wisdom in there. Why don't you comment on that?
Yeah, so it takes me to a place, I've discussed a few times. There was a time in my life I had zero integrity. Whatever I said, it didn't matter. You might as well have not heard it, because the likelihood of me doing what I said was almost zero. There was no wisdom in me either. And what I said didn't matter, not because it didn't matter to the people that were listening. It didn't matter to me. And so I would say whatever I had to say to try to bend things to my will. And I can tell you the effect that it had on my life is I became very quickly completely vulnerable and completely powerless to help myself. Because here's what happens when you make any statement. And I do mean any statement whatsoever. Every time you make a statement, what you offer along with that statement is relational capital, relationship capital. So everything that you and I talk about, I have to offer up relational capital to speak to you. I can stay silent and it costs me nothing. But I have to offer relational capital anytime I offer an opinion. Now, should that opinion return correct, that relational capital is not only returned, but increased. Comes back with interest. Should it come back false, it's lost with interest. And so you need to be very wise about the things that you draw lines in sand about, because the harder line you draw, the more relational capital think of it as poker chips. The more of them you're pushing in the middle, the harder the line it is that you draw. And if you end up coming back on the wrong side of it, because either A, you were mistaken, because you were talking about something you didn't know about and shouldn't have been talking, but were, or B, you were manipulating, which is much worse. But manipulation requires a lot of doubling down. It's a big bluff and a big double down. That's how it works. And it's going to cost you. It always does. And so the question is your opinion in this moment worth the relational capital that has to be pushed forth to have it? And the answer is not always yes. Sometimes it's best to stay quiet. And, being honest and being truthful, not in like a rude sort of way, but being truthful will always return back to you positively, but you don't get to decide how quickly. And that's the part that's difficult. And so, one of the conversations I had with somebody very close to me recently was, hey, you can be honest here if you want to, but you need to be ready to let go of this relationship in the meantime. It'll come back eventually, but you will lose the relationship right now. I'm just trying to brace you for that. I'm not telling you don't. I'm telling you to make sure that you've considered the fact that the minute that you say what you're telling me you'd like to say, this relationship is done. And I can't tell you when it wheels back around. It could be 6 months. It could be 6 years. I don't know, because what you're saying is completely true. But based on the position they're in, they're not ready to receive it in a constructive manner. So they're going to receive it insultingly. And so you just consider how that's going to land, and you make the call on whether or not you're ready for that. And if you are, hey, I'll back you on it. If you aren't, I'll back you on that too. You get to make the call ultimately. I just want to make sure that we're aware of how much relational capital we're shoving in the middle here.
Right.
And, that's the reality of life is the words you speak absolutely matter when it comes to people, but it also matters what you say to yourself.
Yep.
And what you're saying in your own mind. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that how you see yourself, what you say to yourself, is huge. I just got through preaching a message that we've preached, hundreds of times. I see God to the first phasers. And how you see yourself, seeing yourself the way God sees you, what you say to yourself matters. Before you can be honest with other people, you have to be able to be honest with yourself. And if you can't be honest with yourself, then how can you expect to be honest with anybody else? Yeah. So if you're being dishonest with yourself when you're saying, well, I feel this or I feel that, and it's not really true, then you're not able to, be forthright enough coming with other people. And so I think the words that we speak to ourselves are very important. I think the words that we speak about ourselves are very important. I think the words that we speak to God are very important. And then the words that we speak about God are very important, and the words that we speak to other people and about other people are very important. I'm a guy that just believes that this whole place was created with the Word, and that the words that we speak, they have life and they have death, and we get to choose. Very big on that. Doing a little research, getting ready for that, getting ready for the sermon and everything. You and I have talked about how, many pages of notes it takes to preach a certain amount, and so we already know that about ourselves. And so the average person, they say, speaks 16,000 words a day. 16,000 words a day.
That's a lot of words,
It's a lot of words. Now, my sermons average 2,000 words, right? And so for me to preach a sermon, it's usually 2,000 words. And so I spend 6 to 8 hours working on that sermon to be able to speak 2,000 words, to make sure that it's clear, make sure it's concise, make sure I only say what I'm supposed to say and I don't say what I shouldn't say, right? So I'm spending 6 to 8 hours to make sure that my 2,000 words are exactly what God would have. But the regular person is just now getting started. The regular person is going to speak 8 times more than that sermon that I'm going to preach every single day, not one day a week. And I would wonder how much time they put in to thinking about those 16,000 words that they're going to spend or going to spew out of their mouth in a daytime.
Yeah. That's wild.
So that was something that really caught my attention, when God showed it to me, because all I did was I just wanted to look. So I Googled how many words does the average person say, and it said 16,000. And then below it said, hey, they used to say women say this and men have this, but really that's kind of debunked or whatever. And I said, okay, but I was just looking for the number.
I bet it used to be true.
Right, and it may have been.
The older generations of men were much more soft-spoken.
Yeah, and I agree. So that may have been something that has now changed, and everything. But now, so I just looked it up and it says 16,000. Well, I know from typing my messages how many words I usually have, so I know it's between 1,800 and 2,100. So I'm sitting here thinking, how long does it take me to do this message, and how much time did I put into these words? And then the average, just regular, uneducated person has 8 times more to say and spends very little time, deciding what to say.
That's wild.
Like, this is wild, And then here's what's cool about it is this. So I'm, and I mentioned that part of this in my sermon, but I wrote the message, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. And then Saturday, we're at the parade in Baskin, and great parade. Baskin throws a great parade, and really enjoy that parade because you can get anything. I mean, Cooper ended up with toilet paper. He ended up with Roman noodles. Now, he really wanted the chicken Roman noodles. It was a shrimp Roman noodles. But anyhow, he, ended up with all kinds of stuff. Really enjoyed the parade. But after the parade, we had positioned our truck in a way because my brother-in-law, Brad Lofton at Freddy's Fireworks, if you need any fireworks there, he...
bronze sponsor?
Yeah, he is a bronze sponsor, and I'm going to tell you something about that in just a second. But he was doing the fireworks show. So we positioned our truck to where we could watch the fireworks show from Freddy's Fireworks, right? All right, so with that being said, we are getting our chairs. We're putting them in the back end of the truck. It's me and Becky and Cooper. And then there is a family that's like there's an empty spot and then a family over here. And I never looked at them, but they were having a conversation that had very little wisdom and very little thought and a very limited vocabulary to only just a few small words that they used a lot, and so I wouldn't dare even look at them, because they're already drawing enough attention to themselves. I'm not going to draw more attention to them, right? And because I think they need less attention, not more attention. So but we're just setting up our chairs and we're getting ready for the fireworks, and we're hoping that the fireworks will drown out, the conversation that they're having. But based, and I don't even know who they are. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you how many male and female was in the group. I couldn't tell you if they were black or white or anything like that. I never looked. I really couldn't tell you. But what I could tell you is they're not who I would go to for marriage advice.
Yeah.
They're not who I would go to for spiritual advice, and I wouldn't go to them for wisdom, based off of the words that come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And so for me, just overhearing a conversation that I did not want to be a part of, nor did I want to hear, but it was forced on me because they were having it publicly and loudly, that I did not need to meet them.
Yeah.
I didn't need to go see them, and I sure didn't need to plan a session with them for me to learn from them based off of this conversation. Because there's a direct correlation from the words that come out of your mouth and the wisdom that you have.
That's very good.
Amen.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in my class this morning. The Lord gave you your mind. It's not something that just happened to be. Everything about you was created. The Lord gave you your mind. Your mind has immense power because He created it to have an immense power. It was part of the package, and so it's not. I try to explain to people is that they look at me funny when I say it, but it's like the Lord didn't create you, and then He realized how powerful your mind was, and it was like, oh no, that's going to be a problem. That's not like He designed
Amen.
it to have that sort of impact on you. So we're transformed by the renewing of our mind because it's such a tool. Yes. It's such a powerful thing. And it's meant to be for your good. When it's renewed, it's meant to be for your good. When it's unrenewed, it is unrelentingly bad.
Right.
But when it is renewed, it's unrelentingly good. And so the things that you say reinforce what's in your mind. And so you think of your mind as the thing that comes up with the idea, and your mouth is what builds it. So your mind can see the structure, but your mouth builds the structure. Mm-hmm. And so you may want to see yourself in a good light, but when you're constantly speaking negatively about yourself, the structure you're building doesn't match the one that's in your head. You're building the wrong structure. And a lot of people are like, well, it's okay. I can degrade myself verbally as long as I think about myself. And it's, no. Your mouth is what builds. Yeah. Your mouth is what builds. And so I just want to encourage everybody to understand that, like, you need to speak well of yourself. You need to speak well of people because you're building structures for them too. And you're building their structures. One, you can build onto their structures they already have. Mm-hmm. Or tear them down, but you're also building the way that you see them. And even when people are struggling, I would say especially when people are struggling, it's important to see them in the best light that you can. Even when they present themselves horrifically, it's important that we build them in the best light that we can, because if you have to tear it down later, it won't be near as difficult as if you build a fortress of hatred and unforgiveness towards a person. Because of the way that you speak. And so, man, the tongue is the building block. The mind is the origin. The tongue is the building block.
Yes, I agree. And really just simple illustration there. You take a child that's 3 years old and you tell them, hey, man, that's a bad kid right there.
Yep.
What are they going to do? They're going to do bad things.
Yep.
He's not going to say, no, I'm not bad. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been acting bad. I'll act good. Never happened. Mm-hmm. You tell a kid he's bad, the kid is going to get worse. Mm-hmm. He is going to become what you're saying. He's going to take that on. If you say, oh, that's my wild child there, then, hey, I'm the wild child. This is what I'm supposed to do. They're going to take on that mask of being wild. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be wild until they're not. But they're going to continue being wild. You're not going to say, ooh, that's my wild child. And for a 3 or 4 year old child to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was out of line. Let me adjust my ways. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. Yep. No, they're going to take on that label of being a wild child. Yep. And so your words are very important. But we see parents do this to kids all the time. Yep. They label their kids, or this is my smart child and this is my challenge child. This is my nice child and this is my wild child. And then they take on that persona. Mm-hmm. and it's difficult, and it shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it's like, think about like all of the different things they could be as little rooms, and then when they step into a room where they maybe walk into disobedience, when you label them as that, you're locking the door behind them. So when they try to get out the room, they're like, I don't want to be here. And then they go, and you done locked the door on them.
Yep.
And so it's not that they can't get out of the room. It's be much harder now that you lock the door. And so I completely agree. I like the analogy you have there. It's strong and it's true. And, my wife doesn't get upset with people very often. And I won't go so far as to say that she was offended by it, but she was not thrilled because someone jokingly said that our son was bad the other day. Now, they were not being ugly. In no way were the people being ugly. They were just like, man, he's bad. And it's because he's one, and he meddles in things, and he likes to climb, which is what 1-year-olds do. Yes, especially 1-year-old boys. And so he wants to touch everything. He wants to climb everything, and we've got to address him constantly. But when she said that he was bad, my wife wasn't mad at the person. She didn't blow up. She didn't get angry. We didn't go home and talk negatively about the person. She just said, "Man, I really didn't like that they said that." Yeah. And because now we've got the task, because when she said that in front of my son, mind you, not just about my son, in front of my son, she's putting bricks behind him. I've got to remove those.
That's it.
My wife has to remove those. So be careful what you allow to be said around you as well, because just because you didn't say it, when you allow those things to build in around you, you're still responsible for it. And if you don't want it to be the way that it was said, you're the one that's got to move the bricks that you just let get laid. You could stop them from being laid, would be a better move. And it will be very unlikely that person ever says my son is bad again in front of my wife. Very unlikely. That's not a threat. It's just that's not the type of speech we allow. It surprised us. We did not expect it. Now it's on the radar, and it will be quickly addressed if it happens again. We'll let the one be an outlier. There will not be two. And it's not because we're mad. We're not mad at anybody. We're just not going to let those things be reinforced around our children, especially when they're unwarranted. Not that I would allow it if it was warranted, but this one in particular is not. And so, you're not going to get a lot of chances to talk negatively about people to me, even people I don't know, even people that may deserve it. I had a conversation with my wife last night about a situation that's going horrendously. It's got nothing to do with us, but as a minister, you have to deal with people and their drama, and this one was very public, and it's not going well. And I spent probably 15 minutes of the conversation trying to paint the person responsible in the best light that I could, because I don't want to box them into what they did. I don't. That's not my goal. That's not my hope. It's not my heart for them. Now, it'd be very easy just to do that. But what does that make them? Well, it'll eventually make them damaged goods. And if I'm willing to talk about them that way, I got a strong relationship with the Lord and a real firm understanding of what I'm supposed to be in the Lord. If I'm talking about them like that, I can't imagine how everybody else is talking about them. And so I shouldn't talk about them like that ever. And I should lift the people up around me to speak better in those situations. So let's try to bring solutions to the table and not just constantly talk about the problems.
Yep. I agree. I want to add just a few things real quick. If you want to study more on the power of the tongue, you go to James chapter 3, verses 3 through 12. Verse 3, 4, and 5, he gives 3 different illustrations about the tongue. He compares it to a horse, and then to a rudder on a ship, and then to wildfires. And that's in verses 3, 4, and 5. And then 6 through 12, he gives some of the strongest language possible in the Bible. And it's based off of what comes out of your mouth. and it's very, very strong. I won't go into that too much. You can read it for yourself, but it's almost uncomfortably strong. And what he says, and it's true.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say, just to kind of change gears just for a second before we close, is this. We keep saying that it's very important what you say, the power in the tongue, and but we did say that it brings life and death. And so it's also very important to say what you're supposed to say when you're supposed to say it. Mm-hmm. One of the major, I used 3 illustrations at the end of my message Sunday, and I'm not going to go into those, but the one in the middle was the person, and these are all real live illustrations, the person that has struggled with something that you've struggled with. The person that was addicted, the person that has struggled with anger, the person that struggled with soul ties, whatever it is that you've struggled with, and you see that person struggling, and you choose not to give them the answer. Mm-hmm. So you have struggled in that area. You now know the answer. You know the answer is a relationship with Jesus. You know the answer is knowing who you are in Christ. You know the answer is identity, whatever it is, and you know the answer, but they're a little too messy for you because you've cleaned up now, and that's not who you are anymore, and you really just don't care enough to dig in there and really give them the answer. But you have the answer because God is the answer, and He's set you free, and He's given you this new life, and He's given you this new hope and all this kind of stuff. But you choose to not give them the answer that you know they need because you don't want to get messy, or you don't want to take enough of your time, or you don't want anybody to know what you've dealt with in the past. And the answer is shame on you. And shame on me every time that we've ever done that. I think it's so many people call sin things that we do that we shouldn't do, but also sin is not doing the things that you know that you should do. In fact, and one of those is speaking the word to people that they really need to hear, and you know the word and you choose not to do it.
That's good stuff, man.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. You feel good?
I mean, everybody probably hates us now, but it is what it is.
Yeah. We've done worse.
Love y'all.